Good morning, Betsy Bell here. Today I'm going to start a three-part series on how you might change your lifestyle to achieve the health goals that you've set for yourself. I'm going to begin with this picture. If you wear out your body, where are you going to live? I had an interesting conversation with a very good friend of mine who's approaching 60, and he declared that he was very interested in taking care of sore wrists, sore knees, an elevated blood pressure, and avoid medication to achieve changes like that. And I had to say to him, you know, one of the main things that would help all of those situations would be to lose about 15 pounds. He sort of grinned and looked away and then came back and said, but what do you have for high blood pressure? What do you have for elevated cholesterol? And what about my wrists? So I got to thinking after our conversation that one of the biggest problems we have is knowing that we'd like to have fewer aches and pains, knowing we'd like to have more energy, knowing the pleasure of sitting on the floor and playing with little children, but having so much difficulty getting back up again. What are the shifts that need to take place? So this person's normal diet, which he started many, many years ago and has never updated, is hamburgers, French fries, meat, prepared foods, chips. I mean, a lot of enjoyment in the kinds of foods that Americans typically eat, with many intentions to change that diet. This reminds me so much of my own story. Back in junior high, when I was a junior in high school, I was a swimmer. So I swam every day and I ate everything I wanted. Milkshakes almost every day, piles of fried chicken, all the biscuits and gravy I wanted. And suddenly I had a sinus infection and I had to stop swimming. Within 2 months, I'd put on 20 pounds. They came with stretch marks on my breasts and on my thighs, and horror on the part of my mother and my father and my 2 younger brothers all became the monitors of my diet and said, you must tell us how much you weigh this morning and we will help you count your calories. My mother and I ate amphetamine-laced chocolates and had crazy diets like grapefruit and cottage cheese. And what happened? Well, I lost weight, but I didn't really change my eating habits. They had become ingrained in me. And so the pattern for the next many years was to exercise, never to go over 25 pounds over my goal weight, but to do this by fierce attention to every mouthful and just feelings like I was in some kind of a war with food. This is just a hard way to live, and you fall off the wagon and you become a person who says, oh, I'm good today or I'm bad today. So it's like this, you some sort of evil war inside yourself. So what's a person to do? How can we alter? How can we really change our diet so we no longer want those foods and are very happy with other foods that really give us joy? This is a question that I think each one of us has to ask. We have to, for one thing, we have the bodies we have, and rather than go around the world, is it really true that you're ugly and horrible and fat? Can you examine that and say, do people look at me and are disgusted? How do I feel about myself? So one of the most important steps for me was to start to love my body, love myself exactly the way I was. That's hard to do, but you can sort of put your hand on your heart and say, there, you're doing the best you can. and this is the way forward. So that's how I'm going to start this talk. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes because I know everybody's attention span is short. But it was actually through the Shaklee program, starting with the protein powder and the multivitamins, B complex, at the suggestion of a very good friend, that I began to have a different energy level all day long. Instead of drinking coffee and sugar, cereal, and that sort of thing for breakfast, by introducing the protein powder and having that be my breakfast with soy milk, I gradually evened my metabolism. I didn't know what was happening because I really didn't understand it. It didn't make the cravings totally go away. And for a number of years, I continued to have the sort of yo-yo diet going on. It's just that the Shaklee vitamins gave me a little more energy and a little more resilience in that process. So I began to learn what it was that goes on inside the body that makes us desire certain types of foods. One of the things I discovered was that we develop a taste for a certain type of thing, and we are not satisfied unless we have that taste. Now, there are a lot of foods that are commercially sold to us that are engineered very carefully by the food scientists who manufacture them to increase the desire for those foods. There's the sugars and the salts and some other chemistry that I don't really understand, but they are addictive. So to counteract that is a very big task. It's an addiction just like addictions to caffeine or alcohol or medication or drugs. And it's very challenging to overcome that. We're going to talk about that in our next session. I'd love it if you would let me know what sort of questions you have that you'd like me to address. So please send me an email or a text or a comment on this video, and let me know if you're in this same camp with me, a person who would like to be have your this wonderful body that we're issued at the beginning of life, and keep it until your ripe old age and nice and healthy. By the way, my present weight is the weight I had before the sinus infection and the sudden gain of too much weight. And that isn't for fierce, that's not comes from fierce dieting. In the end, it came from rebalancing my metabolism and the foods I like to eat and enjoy every day. There's no war in me anymore. No resistance to the kinds of foods that would put the weight back on. It's an interesting story, and I'm glad I'm going to carry it on in the next couple of sessions. So I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. I'm here every Thursday at 8:30. Bye-bye.